Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another impactful session of the Glass Academy webinars, brought to you in collaboration with Ethos Empowers and Saint Gobain India. We are thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be a meaningful and multi layered conversation today. This session, titled Bridging Standards, Certifications, and Design with Innovative Glass Solutions, brings together three distinguished voices who have been at the forefront of shaping India's sustainable building landscape, from creating codes and certifications to guiding practical implementation on the ground. We are truly honored to be joined by Ms. Millie Majumdar, Managing Director of GBCI India and Senior Vice President at USGBC. Dr. Shweta Manchanda, Professor at University School of Architecture and Planning, an environmental design expert and educator. Mr. Sanjay Seth, Senior Director, Sustainable Infrastructure Program, TERI, and Vice President and CEO, Griha Council. Together, they will help us explore how evolving material choices like high performance glass can align with India's energy codes, sustainability certifications, and broader decarbonization goals. Without further ado, let's begin by hearing from each of our panelists. We'd love for you to share a bit about your journey and current work. I cordially welcome you all to this special webinar.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to join this webinar. And thanks to Ethos and Sengoban for putting this together. I'm Millie Majumdar. Currently, I am Managing Director for GBCI in India, which stands for Green Business Certification Institute. And I'm also a Senior Vice President of Innovation and Research at the US Green Building Council. We are known globally for administering the LEED program for green buildings. And by training, I am an architect, and I also have done my master's in civil engineering from IIT Madras. And, in terms of journey, when I did my architecture, I was, kind of intrigued by the fact that buildings which architects are entrusted upon to design are more, kind of designed by architect for the function that it's meant for. And typically in an architecture school, we are taught more about, at that point in time when I did it, more about the aesthetics and the form and how to design it, given the different standards, etc. However, I always felt that buildings offer more meaning because it's for people who live there, who work there, and spend a lot of time. So the connection, and buildings are not standalone entities. They are put in context of an urban system, and there are so many connections. So how do you really explore these connections of building with people, with systems, and the opportunities it offers? So that was the reason why I kind of did my master's in a slightly different field, which gave me the opportunity to connect it. And then the journey started, and I was also very fortunate to work in a think tank, TERI, for about 23 years, where, I was entrusted with the responsibility of driving this area, and it followed everything. So I'll talk more later, but I'll take a pause here.
Sure, thank you. And likewise, it's a pleasure for me to be here on this platform. And along with, of course, my learned colleagues, Millie and Shweta. My journey is very different to what Millie mentioned. By training, I'm a civil engineer, but I used to work on the supply side more than the demand side. Prior to 2007, I worked all along with the government of India, and I was during the initial part of my career. I was, working on building power projects in the power projects, and so contributing to the capacity addition endeavors of the government. So that is where the space was until 2007, when I was asked to suddenly shift gears and move into demand side management and to take on the responsibilities when building codes were launched for the first time in 2007, the Energy Conservation Building Code. And I was asked to switch over to the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And I recall very vividly that I told the Secretary Power at that time that I had no idea about energy efficiency and all of that. So the question or the retort that I got was that nobody knows anything about this space. Everyone is learning, and the learning process began from there. And yeah, and I think I was very fortunate to be working in this space with, as I said, I was fortunate to work with Millie, many others who were there. We learned from these guys. They helped us to navigate the space of all of these sustainable, the jargons that we use now, which we are now very comfortable using. But they were the ones who probably guided us. But we had the experience on the government side helped us to navigate very well. We were very good in creating programs and schemes for the government, which were very successful. And I think, now that I have about 40 years of experience, I think I'm pretty satisfied in whatever I have done, the journey so far, and it's still continuing. And then, of course, I never imagined that I would be working for a think tank like TERI, which Millie gave up, and I got into her. In fact, Millie, I think I switched into when I came into TERI, I was asked to look after her portfolio along with some additions, and I was very fearful initially. But once I got in here, and now that I have the hang of it, I have no regrets whatsoever. And I would love to probably continue forever till maybe the last day of my life. I could continue working in this space. And it's really a passion for me. Now that I'm got a hang of it, it's become a passion. It's really close to my heart, whatever I'm doing currently. Yeah. So that's for the moment. Yes, I think I'd like to stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Yamini. I think this is a great initiative that Ethos has taken, and Ethos has been doing some really good work in the past as well. So, yeah, kudos to you. About myself, I'm teaching, I'm in the teaching side. So, right now, I'm at a professor level at USAP, that's the University School of Architecture and Planning, IP University. So this is a post I've recently taken up, and my permanent position is at SPA. So I'm on a deputation from SPA, School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. SPA is very special to me because I studied there. I did my undergraduate degree in architecture. So I was always very passionate about the field. I was very intrigued by design and space design and buildings. I come from a family of architects, so I think that kind of influenced me because having seen my father and my brother doing this, it just naturally drew me to the profession. And once I had done my architecture degree, I wanted to, make the architecture better. So, I was thinking I wanted to do a specialization. And, when I thought that, how can the building design itself? So I did not want to kind of deviate into specializations, but look at the building itself and how that could be strengthened. So the natural progression was to, take up sustainable design. So I did a degree in environmental design from the University of Cambridge. And I think I was influenced by some people in the field at that time, Dr. Arvind Krishan, who was teaching us, Dr. Vinod Gupta, and Mr. Sanjay Prakash. And I had done my training with him. So these were kind of influences, and it was a time when the field was budding. And I think TERI and ma'am, I think Millie ma'am may have been involved. They had come out with a book with some case studies of energy efficient buildings, and all this was very inspiring to a young professional. So this is how I got into this field of specialization. Then I had a chance to be abroad for a while. So I worked with some leading firms like SOM. I was in Chicago for a few years, and they immediately, because I think in the US, they don't have targets, but they are under a lot of pressure to cut their emissions, and they don't have the kind of cultural thinking to conserve culturally not a habit to conserve. So I was, taken up very quickly, and there was a lot of demand for professionals like me. And at SOM, we had exposure to projects all over the world, China, Middle East, everywhere. So there was a whole range of climate types, contexts, demands, high demand buildings, and even urban design projects. So that was a very, very good exposure. I think that really toned my experience. So here I am. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. That's really interesting. Millie, ma'am, I would like to ask you, you worked in sustainability for over 3 decades now. What first inspired you to step into this field, and how did your path lead you to become part of initiatives also like Glass Academy?
So I think I already mentioned, the inspiration came from the academic side of it. And then fortunately, what happened is, there is a story behind it also. So the natural progression for an trained architect is to move to some architectural firm, right? And that time when I started in the 90s, there was no so-called sustainability consultants or that working field, right? So that was unknown. So, and I was based out of, I studied in IIT Madras, I moved to Calcutta and I joined one firm there. And then I was to get married and my husband was working in Delhi. So I needed a job in Delhi. So on my behalf, he started applying to different organizations. I had no idea about Teddy, to be very true. It will be a lie if I say I knew and I applied. So he actually applied on my behalf, to Teddy. And that to knowing from one of his friend circle that there is such organization, this Dr. Pachori, they work in this space and, it's a good company. They give good money also because, and I get this call, so I flew in from Calcutta to before my, and I needed a job to give this interview. And which I, then that time I remember I met Dr. Mathur, and people who know Dr. Ajay Mathur, they will know, how he kind of grills you, not in a bad way, but he kept on asking me, what will you do here? What will you do here? I had actually no clue. But anyway, I managed some response and I secured that job. And that was the starting, and that was the inspiration. And it all happened, kind of organically. But then what happened? So it was completely white space. So really nobody was there to guide, nobody was there to tell you what to do. So first few years was really a struggle. And some of my colleagues and I, we spent first few years, and that was actually, a big eye opener. So that time, since it was not mainstream, so nobody really knew about the integrated thinking around green buildings and the opportunities it offers. But there was this hospitality sector who were battling huge energy costs. So we spent first few years in Teddy, my team and I, Pradeep was there. So Pradeep and I spend a lot of time doing energy audits in hotels, like particularly the Taj group of hotels, ITC and all. So that was really eye opener to see what opportunities exist and how to connect, through retrofit options, etc. And then what happened was, so this happened for a few years, and then the in late 90s and early 2000, there was this bilateral collaboration that happened between US and India. President Clinton was coming that time. So the governments got together and made a bilateral agreement. And one of the key outputs of that deliverable was to develop this green building movement. And CII was the chosen partner. And that point in time, LEED had just started. It was an inception. So as a part of that bilateral program, LEED was brought in to develop this concept. And the CII, the Green Business Center that was funded by Godrej, that was the first pilot project. And there were no consultant available. And Teddy was the automatic choice. So it was me and another colleague of mine, who was in the water sector. So we kind of read, leaf to leaf, page to page of the rating system, understood what simulation is, no teachers, nothing, all self-taught, to do this. And that was actually an eye opener to see how, buildings can be looked into in an integrated way. So it's not only energy, there's water, there's waste, there's indoor quality, daylight, everything has a placeholder in the overall performance. It's the outside environment. So that was the starting point, and how you can think in an integrated way and deliver, a product that is holistically good for the environment, good for people, good for everybody. And when we started, honestly, it was very expensive. But then that was the start of the green building movement in India. And I need not, kind of go through the entire journey. You know how that has transformed the market, right? And then when that project happened, after that, in Delhi, I was given, because in India, historically, the way an American would design a building is very different from the way Indians would do. And we had a traditional way of designing, which was traditionally low energy. So why don't we also think what is more valid and applicable for India, right? So that was the journey of Griha that started. And Dr. Pachori gave that, with the iron hand, that you have to do something with your team, which is India specific. So that was the starting, and the rest followed. And of course, being in Delhi, it gave us a lot of opportunity, my colleagues and I, to participate in different policy forum. And, we interacted with Mr. Sanjay Seth. That time the ECBC was getting developed. So we provided inputs, and the entire integrated thinking and journey happened, and rest is history. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that, ma'am. Sir, could you also share how your journey evolved and how you came across Glass Academy, and how today you are a board member at Glass Academy? So, a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So, I was fortunate at that time to, as I said, in 2007 when building codes were first introduced, and we were the regulators. So the regulations were brought in by us, and then the tough task was given to us that you need to now go and implement it pan India, right? So obviously, the industry partners became a very important entity. So I recall Saint-Gobain colleagues coming over, Asahi, and all of these people would come over, and they would talk to us, likewise from the air conditioning industry and all of them. And then a view was taken that we will not talk to any individuals, we will talk to industry platforms, because if you have to go about bringing about that change, or if you have to listen to, then it has to be a level playing field for everyone, right? So that's where we created that ecosystem. And then, of course, I remember Mr. Santhanam coming over and inviting us, and then telling me to come on to to the academy, and then to be on the board and all of that. So that followed. But one of the things that we did, when we started creating, so as part of the government, you have to provide an equal opportunity to all the players in the field, and you cannot be biased towards anyone. And then the other thing, which was that if you really want to see this, if building codes are introduced at the central level, it's a state subject, because the eventual implementation lies with the municipalities and the state governments. So how do you go about making sure that they adopt it, and then they kind of notify it and implement it? That was a tough call, because you can only, this is an advisory, and you have to tell them that you need to go ahead with the notification process. It was a very tall task. I think we're still struggling. I mean, on that pathway, it's a struggle. If you look at what is happening in implementation, it is very small. Yeah, and so obviously that was one, you need to have that connect with the industry, so that the regulations become more robust in implementation. So I think that Glass Academy and all those people became important players for us to be reaching out to. And the other thing was that we had to ensure that capacities need to be built up in the states and all. These are all new subjects. These were new ideas. So how do you go about creating those, those capacities that were required? And when we talked about those capacities, I think organizations such as the Glass Academy and all became very important in partnering with the government in creating that or helping us to create those capacities. Yeah, so a lot of capacity building efforts were put in together with the industry, and I think that's how our interaction started with the academy, and eventually I was there on the board, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much for sharing that, sir. Shweta ma'am, your path from architecture to a PhD in environmental design is really inspiring. I wanted to ask what drew you towards research and how it has reshaped your approach to design today.
Hmm. So yeah, I think when I went for my specialization, uh, I got intrigued into this field of environmental design. And then the institute that I went to was basically a research institute. So, I was exposed to research practically for the first time. I mean, we did some in our undergraduate degree, but it was more like a review. So, we kind of, were exposed to what is research all about and how do we question the norms. So that was the key, that kind of attracted me that, when we look at guidelines, guidebooks, we just take these standards for granted. But where is it all stemming from? So this is the exposure that I had, and it is all stemming from some research work that kind of establishes what is a regulation, and that establishes what is a norm and what is a field, and that very thing can be questioned. And as architects, you may also know that we there is so much rigor in the training that we are forced to do a lot of research. We are pushed to stretch the boundaries, innovate, think out of the box. So this is the core the core philosophy of an architect, is that rather, I mean, besides conceiving a space, we are we have to innovate, and we have to cut through and do something cutting edge, make our lives better. So this is, I think, the two things kind of naturally tied together, which is why I went into a research field, because I think it was so empowering, that one can actually question things, look into them, and actually find something new. And what we have been thinking for a while has been completely, different. So I think the initiatives that people were taking, like, Terry and Griha at that time, I know what ma'am was talking about. There was this conference or an event where LEED was being introduced in India. And at that time, LEED was being introduced as such. So one had to actually air condition a building to be able to rate it, which was, so strange. And it was completely against the whole intent. So, unless we are able to question that, and instead of just aping and how Griha was able to adopt the Indian context for a rating system. So this is, how research naturally feeds into the path forward for, everyone. This is what inspired me. And then at present, my research interests involve, so they started with rethinking comfort. So as I said, LEED was, you had to air condition a building, but in India we had naturally ventilated buildings. So that was what my research was about, that how as individuals, when we stay in a naturally ventilated building, we naturally use our body's adaptive capacity to, adapt to the environment, and we are able to tolerate wider ranges. And that is part of the Indian culture. You see Ayurveda, you see yoga. So these are all ways in which you see spirituality. These are the ways in which we extend our body's adaptive capacity to be able to tolerate wider ranges. So as a culture, we are ingrained to learn these things, and we should not stop it. We should not make ourselves weaker. We should extend our boundaries. So adaptive comfort is one thing, and then natural ventilation in buildings. And then I think I was quite inspired by our teachers both in India and abroad, and I have kind of specialized in shading design. So how do we understand solar geometry? And so we've recently patented a shade for windows, which is adaptable. So, it can be applied to any orientation just by changing it slightly. So it's a modular IKEA style kind of fitting that can be applied and just moved by the user or at the time of installation. So facades and comfort and housing, these are the things I'm interested in right now.
That's a really interesting journey, ma'am. On that note, I think we can start talking about the topic and about glass a little bit. So, I'll keep an open question, and you can all hop in and place your thoughts. In your journey through all these years, whether it is sustainability, whether it is certifications, or whether it is even academics, what do you think? What is the role that glass plays uh, in all these particular categories, and how do you think it can be a contributor to performance as well as to sustainability?
So, I think in this space, we have some kind of a love and hate relationship with glass. We all architects, all, engineers, they would love to use glass because that immensely add a lot of value in terms of aesthetic transparency to the building, as well as other benefits. But then, one has that cautious attitude that we have to use it judiciously so that we do not cause a lot of heat gains and other things which can add to the air conditioning load and hence enhanced emissions, so on and so forth. So there has been a lot of, so traditionally if you see Indian buildings, and in context also of new urbanism in India. So there is a shift, right? Earlier we were really judicious. We knew how to use glass effectively for daylight, for better visual comfort, for lower heat transmission with shading, etc. But then now, with tall structure and the normal inclination to ape the west, we took those concepts, but we did not, apply the Indian principles of use it judiciously. So I would say glass is one of the most versatile material, and we definitely, cannot ignore it by any means. So it remains one of the most profoundly important material. But now with evolution of technology, with evolution of principles on how to use it judiciously, and to be able to look at the trade-offs by and with also advent of technologies like high performance glass, etc., we can still have a low energy building but with optimal use of glass. And I would also say glass, though we are now talking in context of external and facade usage, it also has a lot of internal usage in terms of partitions and other things, which also kind of enhances the usability of glass in context of those finishes, and hence other parameters like that of acoustics, etc., also play a very important role. So I would like to hear from others, but definitely we cannot ignore and we cannot take one stand that no glass building. That's not possible.
Yeah, Millie, I agree with what you're saying. And I have a very fantastic anecdote which I would like to share with you. I just come into BE, and the building codes were launched by the Honorable Minister. And then there was a article which was published in the papers that Government of India is pushing glass industry and Saint-Gobain and all of that. And I don't want to name the person who was behind this, but we were all summoned by the minister, and we all had to go to the secretary and everyone. We were summoned there, and they said, "What the hell are we doing? I mean, you all have come out with a regulation, and here they are talking about that you are pushing glass as an industry for adoption, for large scale adoption. Where is it that? Where is this news come from? Why is it? How do?" So we were asked to prepare a rejoinder to that article. And then we had to go and we invited our glass colleagues as well to come and help us in this, inputting, framing the replies and being able to, kind of provide evidence that, look, this is not the case. The building, the ECDC is beyond all of this. It's a code which is there, which helps you to regulate glass, the wall to window ratio and all of that. So we had to, all of those things we had to go about, but prepare a regulation which was to be satisfaction of the media. You see, media can play havoc, and this was my first test. That, oh my God, what is this that we have got into now? And then of course, we were able to kind of scuttle that and move along and move ahead. But yes, I think if we know the importance of glass, but then, and we all, these dialogue began where we did number of outreach activities. Why we should not ape from the West? Why should not we have glass buildings in the context of India's climate, being a tropical country? For them, having glass facades and all of that is fine, but not for us. But eventually, if you want to have glass facades, as Numi was also saying, you need to invest in it. I mean, you can't. So one is, of course, that you optimize the use of glass, and the other is that if you want to have a facade which is fully glass, that also is fine. But you need to also be cognizant of the fact that then you will have to put in a lot of cooling loads into the building. So a lot of air conditioning and all of that. So we were, and then architects, others who came in, they said that if you use structural glass, it gives you more space inside. Every inch of space is money for developers. All kinds of things were put on the table, and we understood that. But at the same time, while we thought that regulations such as the ECDC and all that would be able to regulate the use of glass in the industry, I think we have not been able to do that as effectively as one was aspiring to. But at the same time, I think it's very important. Judicious use of glass is very important. You can't work out of a box, right? You need to connect with the outside world. It is important. And so that's where it is.
Yeah, so I think, glass has really, changed the way we build since glass came into use. It's such a versatile material. It lets in light while blocking the outside harsh conditions. So it's such an interesting material, and I think we can't do without it now. It's I think here to stay unless we find some other material which is does the same thing. It's that's transparent and yet can control things. So I think glass is that way wonderful, and you can't do without it. So that said, the glass is also the thinnest part of a built envelope. And because of that, it contributes the maximum to the energy consumption in the building. So if I make a rough estimate, so if we say that, say, buildings are responsible for 30% approximately of global energy consumption, then the building envelope contributes to almost about 50% of that, in terms of the loads. So the building envelope, and from the envelope, the glass or the transparent part is perhaps the largest contributor. So if we kind of just make a very rough projection, glass or a building fenestration is possibly contributing to about, I would say, not less than 5% of total global energy consumption. So that's huge. That's a huge estimate, and which is why fenestration or a treatment of a facade, or from where the light and wind and the view comes, that's extremely, extremely important. So the students of architecture, when they're learning, must understand how to do an external wall design properly, which I feel sometimes gets left behind because, they get so engaged in space planning that this kind of development of the facade takes a back seat and is almost the last thing that an individual does. Whereas it should be an iterative process. One should start ideating right from the beginning what the envelope will be like, because now the envelope is here to do so many other things. It not only filters out the view and the light, but it will also need to filter out the pollution, the wind flow. We have thinking on, not just natural ventilation, mixed mode ventilation, controlling of, as I said, the air pollutants, and so on. And now with, artificial intelligence, we would want to make all this automated and, self-regulating. So there's a huge market out there, and the professionals have to keep up with it. Concepts of glass are still not completely ingrained with the students. The concepts like SHGC, VLT, WWR, these are, sometimes difficult concepts to understand, and they deal with numbers. Students don't always understand all this. So they have to keep up with it. And we are doing a lot of these competitions with the students. The Solar Decathlon India is a major one. And I think this has exposed the students to what is needed in the market. There's some amount of number crunching is required, even by architects. If students come into the field thinking that number crunching is not required, besides areas and programs and all that, energy efficiency numbers, even with photovoltaics, integration of photovoltaics in the facade is going to come in the big way. We have just formulated guidelines for the ministry for integration of PVs into buildings, how in different ways it can be integrated. And the glass is, one of them. Right now, photovoltaics is encased in glass. There are no other technologies available in the market, very few. So this is, a big potential, big area to look into.
Thank you for sharing that, ma'am. Another question I would like to ask is, with the growing emphasis, because we are also talking about performance of glass and the values of glass. So there are a lot of new innovations and evolution that is happening with glass itself. Something like low carbon or high performance glass, embodied glass, and things like that. So, how do you think this shift in mindset or shift in the industry can be done to introduce these in a better way, or make them more mainstream?
So I think the concepts that you're talking about are still fairly new. The market is still not adjusted to, say, for example, how to best use reflective. That now they have kind of got adjusted to. I think earlier, even difference between tilted and reflective glass was not clear. And now that adjustment has come, but low E glass, that has not still realized its full potential. How low E glass combines in a double glass, whether the low E coating is on the inside or the outside in various contextual situations, that is not clear or ingrained in the design professionals. So I think before the other innovations come in, there is still a lot of learning to do. And there are other innovations that can be seen. Of course, glass itself has high embodied energy, but that is a material science. Okay, so that I think unless the architects or designers work with what comes into the market, of course they can patent things like we have, but that has to do with assemblies again. So we are not into the field of generating new material, but we can do assemblies. And in terms of assemblies, we can look at, how to integrate the shading best, or the photovoltaics best, how we can look at double skin facades. So are they applicable to a context like ours? Maybe, maybe not. I think some research is required on that front. What is the cost to benefit of such an assembly? Glass where the shading or some automation is encased within the glass panel. So, for example, photochromatic glass or glass with shading fins built inside them. I think Dr. Vinod Gupta had done one building in Mumbai very, very early on, and very innovative, but the market was not ready for it. So there were, such things, unless they are properly manufactured and they become part of the, the troubleshooting is done, there are issues. So I think some researcher once said the more complex you become or complex things become, the more the chances of failure are. So I think we have to see whether to go for a simplistic situation wherever as far as possible, and complex situations where they are really required. So we have to develop on both ends and do that.
Sanjay sir, Millie ma'am, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
So I think, I would just like to add and compliment what Shweta said. Now, the discussions around the, carbon which the carbon footprint and the carbon, contribution of buildings that has expanded. Earlier, we were only concerned with the operational, energy and the emissions therefrom. But now it is in the global dialogue around greener buildings and better buildings. So the embodied carbon piece has also been added to the discussion. And once you expand the realms of, your carbon calculation, and you're looking at whole building life cycle analysis, so on and so forth, embodied carbon and carbon content of glass becomes very important, because that's a crucial building material. And also you would be, like interested to note that the National Building Code of India right now, it's getting revised, and the chapter on materials. So we also have now this time on, we have introduced the concept of embodied carbon, and with whatever limited data is available in the Indian domain. So there's a placeholder for that. So in sum, there is a lot of growing awareness, and this is really a field that we should work on more. Yes, we know glass has a high embodied energy content, but then when you are calculating, say, the overall embodied carbon content of a building, as soon as you use, say, a lightweight material, then obviously there is an impact on the structural, component of the building, and there is a direct reduction of that. So, if you are doing a overall life cycle assessment of the building and the overall carbon assessment, where you're looking at embodied and operational together, that offers a lot of opportunity of trade-offs. In addition to glass being used for daylight, for views and other purposes, and how much you should be using it purely from the energy point of view, versus you are also using glass to offset some of the, the structural load, and hence what is the impact on the overall carbon. So the trade-off context has increased, and hence, more requirement of data from the glazing industry is something that we're looking forward to. What is happening also in these embodied, carbon numbers that are available, again, we have it from the, the larger manufacturers. We do not have the data from the others, the smaller ones, the smaller players. So there is a lot of research and work that has to get into that. Also, again, in the expansion of the context, we are talking about end of life use of buildings. So how do you really dispose it of, a circularity on how you put the glass back into the stream of manufacturing again? All these components would be very important. So going forward, that's a big and open, again, a wide space of research, which has just begun. And I think there is a lot of scope. And in context of operational carbon, I think when we started till now, there has been a lot of improvement, with the glazing industry has offered in terms of high performance glass, low E glass that offers better VLT with a reduced SHGC, so on and so forth. So yes, so I think that's definitely an area for work.
I think I don't want to add too much to whatever has been said. I think much has been said by both the ladies on the platform today. But we also need to be mindful of the fact that the price sensitivities around all of these things are very important uh, when policies and regulations to navigate in this space. We have to keep in mind the price sensitivities around all of this. It's a very important element. And I recall, I mean, given my experience when we were creating policies and when we used to go for seeking reductions in taxes from the finance ministry, and when we would say that, this will help us to uh, kind of scale up the markets for all of these things. Then the question that they would always ask is that who's going to be eventually using all of this? This is the people who are the high end of the spectrum, right? The rich people are going to be using. Are you wanting to kick in tax rebates for the rich people? So we would always lose out an argument, and the tax rebates would never be given, because whether it was a high-end air conditioner or a very highly efficient glass use and all of that, they said the rich people can afford it. Let them go ahead and pay for it. That's okay. Market nudges and all of that we can do through policy interventions. That was there. But we, being a developing country, we have to largely cater in for the the lower income groups and the low middle income groups and all of that. So affordability, price sensitivity, all of these things very important elements. I mean, of course, what Millie and Shweta have mentioned as far as the embodied carbon on, yes, it is very important. Going around the narration that is happening globally, we also can't be leaving ourselves behind. So we have to get into the mainstream. And now that we have the CCTS, the the trading platforms have been established, and eventually, earlier on, everyone was looking at the emission numbers. Now everyone is talking of carbon numbers. So I think it becomes very important, and we need to get it into the mainstream. But there is some amount of time that will be eventually, we'll have to wait for things to shape up. Yeah. So just wanted to add this bit to what Millie and Shweta have said. Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who are working around sustainability, around glass, around performance, and a lot of things. A lot of the younger generation and newer students are also wanting to enter this field, and they want to learn more. They want to get more innovations into the field and things like that. So my last question to all of you is. If there are any advices or any messages that you would like to give to the people who want to do better for this particular field, what would that be?
Yeah, I think I can say something about this because we deal with students who are trying to find their way all the time. So I think this is, a path that a person has to chart himself. There is, of course, a lot of need and demand. Markets will mature and take their own shape. Earlier, there were no consultants, as ma'am had mentioned. Then slowly this became, a kind of niche. There were green design consultants, niche area. Then again, some of the work started being taken by the MEP consultants. So I think it is all developing. Now I am seeing a lot of students are going on the research side. They go abroad or they work with a lot of these NGOs and research organizations. So it depends on where the funding is coming in, where the market is shifting. And I think it's a little field is flexible. But I think architects are a lot in demand. We don't appreciate it when we are studying or teaching, but outside in the market, because they are very flexible. They have this good engineering thinking, plus they also are taught to think creatively. So I think that makes them quite adaptable to varied professions, and they are actually quite in demand everywhere. And with a good sustainability background and grounding in these concepts, they are quite well suited for many professions. So you have to be creative even in career building and making new professions. So I think this, yourself, you have to be creative in that.
So, Billy, I'm going to jump in before you come in. I think there is a huge demand for people in this space. Whenever we are interviewing people or when we are looking out for people, we don't have enough trained people in this space. Of late, what we have started doing is we take them on as interns, help them shape up their professional careers, and then eventually, if they do well, then we induct them into our teams. So this is something which we have started doing of late.
Thanks. And, I think, very kind of correct points and relevant ones which you have mentioned here. And I think Glass Academy also does offer quite a few certificate programs. At least they were running when, I had met last. And there's the Glass. But I would also, in addition, like to touch one more area, which Glass Academy is very, doing it very with a lot of industry participation, and that is the vocational training space. Because in the everybody is not getting into, say, engineering or the other college field, where we are only looking at the application side of it on paper. So people who come and do the fitment of the glass, because a lot of the performance of what you are putting will depend on the proficiency of those people. So Glass Academy has a very good, line of these training programs where not, say, the school dropouts and others who have an alternative vocational, kind of training in place, or collaboration with ITIs, etc. So that's a very, very important area and niche which Glass Academy is addressing. And I just want to commend the efforts and bring it, as a part of this discussion. So it's not only about the cream who would recommend, but it's also about the people who will go there and implement. And in India, implementation is a very big gap. So also, right now we have also additional focus. We call something called envelope commissioning, which is also a very important part of the lead rating system, where in addition to the commissioning that happens for the systems, you also have trained people who can help with the checking that whether the envelope is performing as it needs to, for better efficiency. So in those areas also, there's a lot of scope for, these glazing consultants and people to come in. So I think these are some of the niche areas, and holistically, if you're able to address it, and the academy is doing a lot, we can definitely, shift the gears and shift the moving milestone towards a more positive journey.
Thank you so much for sharing that, ma'am, and of course, Shweta ma'am and Sanjay sir as well. There are a lot of key takeaways from whatever you have mentioned. There's a short session that we have kept. It's like a rapid fire kind of thing to keep it light and to make it a little more interesting. So I've prepared 5 questions for each of you. They can be short answers, one word answers, and then it'll be nice and interesting to end the webinar on that note. So I'll start with Millie ma'am. Ma'am, what's the one word that comes to your mind when you think of green buildings?
Efficiency and livability.
A city whose sustainability journey you closely admire.
Singapore.
Nice. What excites you more, rating systems or innovation in material science?
Innovation in context of rating systems.
Nice. Your favorite green certified building in India?
Favorite. The first one, which I have worked on, that has a very special place in my heart, which is the CII Godrej Green Business Center. And of course, in Delhi, though that's not a certified building, but there is a retreat building, which is one of the very, earlier buildings where we had deployed a lot of technologies. It's not certified, but it's very close to my heart.
Nice, ma'am. Ma'am, a heritage site that you'd love to visit again?
Again, or it's on my bucket list. I haven't
Yeah.
visited. It's the Machu Picchu. I want to
Oh,
visit.
nice.
It's in my
That's really
bucket
nice.
list. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. My next set of questions is for Shweta, ma'am. One word that defines your teaching philosophy?
Be passionate.
No. Passive design or high performance facades? What's more exciting to research?
I would say both.
Ma'am, one building in the world you truly admire?
I think I am forgetting. There's a building in Chicago. It's the Judson University building, and it uses a very complex, airflow kind of thing. Also, the design is good. So the way they have kind of pre-cooled the air, then cooled it, and then, I don't remember the exact sequence, but very interesting. So that's something I'd like to get back to and really inspired me.
Nice. And a simulation software you can't live without?
I think right now, Design Builder.
And okay, a word that describes your design philosophy?
Design philosophy. I think beauty.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sanjay sir, I think, yeah. Buildings or cities, where does impact start for sustainability?
Cities.
One material innovation you're currently excited about?
One, what did you say?
Material innovation.
Oh, well, we are evaluating a lot of, in the Mahindra Terry Center of Excellence, we are looking at various building materials. So I can't name one, but yes, definitely that's an area which is of interest to us.
Nice, sir. Sir, if you could mandate one green policy across India, what would it be?
Mandate one green policy. Resource efficiency.
Sir, if not a sustainability expert, what career would you imagine yourself?
I would be still building power projects.
Sir, what would you say is one underrated sustainability metric?
Underrated sustainability metric. Oh my God. This is a tough one. I can't think of it here. I'm really completely lost on this one. If the ladies want to take it up, I'm okay. What would be an underrated sustainability?
Maybe EPI per person, huh?
EPI per person, okay.
Or carbon per person.
But yeah, actually, with the mission life, I think, I think maybe frugality is something which we could come up with. Yeah.
Nice. So that was very interesting. With that, we come to the end of the webinar. Thank you so much to all our speakers, Ms. Millie, Dr. Shweta, and Sanjay sir, for this truly insightful and enriching discussion. Today's conversation gave us a rare opportunity to hear from the very voices shaping the future of sustainable building practices in India, from policy frameworks to real world certification systems, and from the evolving role of materials like high performance glass. We have covered a spectrum that not only informs but inspires action. To all our young professionals and students watching, we hope this session leaves you with deeper clarity, more curiosity, and a stronger commitment to designing for impact. Let's continue bridging policy and practice, turning smart ideas into smarter buildings and ultimately into a better built future. Thank you once again, and we look forward to having you join us in our next session of the Glass Academy webinars.